Hi, everyone. Welcome to Startup Boston Week 2020. I am so excited to have you all at Inbound, Outbound, Biz Dev, Oh My, How to Build Your Direct Sales Mix. My name is Tanvi Gala. I am a sales account executive at HubSpot. I will be your moderator for today, and we have an awesome group of panelists to hear from, and I'm super excited to dive into their expertise on how to build a sales team. So first, I want to go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves, and then I'll give you a quick breakdown of what we're going to cover today. So Nirvana, we can start with you. We can go to Christy, Amal, and then Derek, if that works.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanvi. Hi, everybody. My name is Nirvana Lildari. I'm an enterprise account executive with Robin. I've been working in sales for over 6 years now with 3 different firms. I think I'm the only individual contributor on the panel today. However, I am the CEO of my own sales territory here at Robin. So excited to share what I know.
Hey everyone, my name is Christy Majeski. I'm a sales development manager at an edtech startup called Panorama Education, and we help educators act on data to improve student outcomes. So Nirvana and I have both been in the workforce for about 6-7 years now. Worked at some really small startups with 10 people, huge corporations with 60,000, and along the way I've really fallen in love with helping the sales development function grow because you're kickstarting people's careers and creating that revenue engine for your company.
Awesome. Mal Williams here. I'm a sales leader for Sykes Digital Services. My pedigree is more along the lines of sales and marketing initiatives for companies at various stages, obviously past seed funding, hopefully. I'm leading the US sales efforts here for robotics process automation and intelligent process automation company in the United States. And I think for me, I am gonna describe myself more of a business leader. So my job is to create net new opportunities, bring new projects to market, as well as find unique ways for all of our partners and customers to gain more value out of realizing on the promise of one office. So 1 + 1, so humans plus robots equals more. We're not here to get rid of people. We're here to augment people's experiences and give them back time to deliver on the promise of work-life balance, that the pandemic has thrust upon us. So happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm a new daddy. This is DJ. It's my #1 role. He's 5 months old. I'm the primary caretaker, so it's going to be a very interesting session. So I run Duplessis Foundation. We're a nonprofit, and we work with women, immigrant, and minority entrepreneurs, specifically on developing and implementing their sales process. In the last 4 years, we've helped them generate $4.1 million in sales. So for us, sales is a vehicle for social equality. In about 25 years, our goal is to find a way to go from 0 to $1 million with 1,000 entrepreneurs who are women, immigrants, or minorities.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Well, everyone, for this panel, we are going to be covering topics like how to build a sales team, why setting up a sales process is important, and what to think about when you're hiring your first sales rep. So after we work through the discussion questions, I also wanted to open it up to a couple of people in the audience who are facing specific sales challenges today, who are looking for advice from the panel. And hopefully we can kind of work through some of that and potentially fix some of those challenges as well. So we do have a lot of content to get through. So part of my job is going to be keeping things moving. Unfortunately, we only have 45 minutes or so together. So I want to make sure we get through as much as possible. But first, what I wanted to do is just kick this off with a couple of polls so that the panelists have a good understanding of who makes up the audience today and who they're speaking to so that they can tailor those questions appropriately. So I'm not sure if Stephanie or Christine would be able to pull up the first poll, and that is going to be, what is your role at your current company? And we're going to give y'all about 10-ish seconds. I know that's not a long time to answer, but we want to keep things moving. So
I should have had my game show music queued up, but I guess
if anyone wants to
tap
sing,
dance. Yeah.
if anyone wants to sing during this time, they absolutely can.
I want to, but I won't.
Thank goodness. Aspiring vocalist. Sorry, I can always go two ways. Amazing or oh my goodness.
Amal, we can start an a cappella group.
Oh, Nirvana,
Oh,
your voice is probably way better than mine.
You can do the vocal percussion.
All right. See, I like
All right, I think we can potentially wrap this poll up.
okay. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to actually give 3 more seconds just in case anybody is still
Cool.
hands on the keyboards. But here we go. 3, 2, 1. And polling. And do you want to share results right now, Tanvi?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Awesome. Okay, great. We have a lot of CEOs in the house. That's awesome. Some sales directors, not many sales managers, few sales reps, and then a lot of others. So we'll be looking for feedback on who those other folks are, but that should give you a good idea. We also want to take a couple of other polls as well, again, just to give this team a good idea of who they're talking to. So the next one is going to be, do you already have a person officially responsible for sales at your startup? This is going to allow and help the panelists just to understand kind of what phase you are in building your sales team as well. Oh, that's the first one, I think.
It is the first one. Uh-oh.
that one. It'll change.
We're gonna ask again. No, wait. Hold on. Here we go. Sorry, we're gonna launch again. Here we go. Do you already have a person officially responsible for sales at your startup? On the back end, I'm just going to tell you that the bars are like swinging back and forth here. So not
So we're
an
talking
obvious
to a lot of
answer.
different folks.
I think based upon the initial survey response, the multiple hats is probably going to be high, right? Given the number of CEOs, unless they're technical CEOs, they're probably doing at least one of hats.
I love a good hat wardrobe.
They go along with the masks now, Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
Like have like the whole matching headgear. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Looks like got a couple more votes coming in, so we'll give you just your last couple seconds. 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Cool. Got a big mix, guys. So we're talking to a lot of different folks here. All right, that's helpful. Okay, and then our last poll is just going to be who is your startup selling to? So is it B2B, B2C, or do we have a mix here?
And Thunby, just for the people who may not know, what does B2B and B2C mean?
Sure, great question. Business to business or business to consumer?
Oh, okay, thank you.
I wouldn't have known that 4 years ago. I will be the first to say that.
Okay, looks like this voting might be finished. So 3, 2, 1. So exciting. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, good. We're in the right place.
Cool. Mostly B2B, but let's not forget our B2C folks. All right. Sounds good. So we are going to go ahead and dive in to our questions. So the first one is, what do you think are the first steps a founder should take when thinking about sales for their product? Nirvana, I would love to just kick it off with you if that's cool.
Sure, absolutely. So I am a major fan of networking. I think that that's a great place to information gather, get the word out about your product, figure out where you stand in the market. The other thing is it's going to help you identify any blind spots you have just by talking to people. It'll help you sharpen your pitch because you'll have to explain what you're doing over and over. And then understand like where people have questions and come up with shortcuts for how to explain your product. And then it can also help you define your target persona and get really close to those people and figure out what's keeping them up at night. So that way, when you're actually like hiring your salespeople, you can give them the strongest direction for how you want your product to be sold within whatever landscape is already available.
Awesome. And then Amal, we're going to go to you if that's cool.
Sure. Could you just repeat the question so I don't make something up that's
Yeah, of course. What do you think are the first steps a founder should take when thinking about sales for their product?
So I would say I'm gonna take some liberty, Nirvana, and assume that they have at least one customer, right? So if you have at least one customer, hopefully, right, that is your best story ever. And so when we're looking at it, so I look at sales from this perspective: segmentation, right, targeting, and then reporting back on performance. So if I have one customer, and that customer, again, I'm talking from my current world, if they're a $4 billion company and up, right, what other attributes do they have about themselves that we need to be focusing on? So I don't need to go to them with speeds and feeds about why my stuff is shinier and brighter and awesome. What I really need to say is, hey, Mr. One other person in this world, Mrs. One other person in this world, the last person that I delivered value to, they resemble you. And this is what it was like while we were dating before we got seriously committed. And I think that if we can take our storytelling, and I'm guilty of this just as everybody else, there's so many new acronyms in the world. There's so many new buzzwords words in the world. What I want to just talk about is saying, hi, I talked to this person about this one thing. They cut me a check. And this is what our first 18 months of life was like together. At least when I've been doing sales training for brand new people to sales, I try to get away from the buzzwords and the acronyms and just use very, very, very mundane examples of how we work together. So it's a person who had this kind of attributes or characteristics, and here's specifically how we helped them. Here's how long it took, and here's where our relationship is today. Again, I'm being very, general on purpose, but our storytelling, if it's complicated, if I can't tell you a story over coffee, if I can't tell you a story on back of napkin, the rest of the conversation won't matter. So I think storytelling is basically how intimately involved our reps are with our best customer, and then saying, you know what, and I love this story for HubSpot, you actually don't look like somebody who has the database that's the right size. You don't look like somebody who has a pragmatic approach to targeting and messaging and cares about the life cycle. So tell them who they are, right? But also tell them, hey, you know what? You're not really like the customers that we have. So know who they are, know who they aren't. That's what I think about when I'm talking about sales.
Awesome, super helpful. Christy, Derek, anything to add there? Good? Okay, awesome. We'll go on to the next question. So what do you recommend a new founder with no sales experience thinks about when building out a repeatable sales process? Christy, if it's cool, we're gonna start with you.
Absolutely. So when you think about a repeatable sales process, there are 5 core components that you really want to nail. You want to kickstart that first conversation with someone who could be interested. You want to figure out why they may be interested. Then you want to deliver a compelling presentation about why they really should be interested in you, particularly to solve that problem. You want to give them a really good, convincing budget proposal about how much it's going to cost and why that cost is justified by the value you're delivering. And then you want to get that signature. You want to close the deal. So within that, those are the 5 core components. And then when you think about your own sales cycle, it could be different. So what I'd recommend with all of those pieces is wherever you can, you will be scrambling, you will be moving fast, but write down whatever you can, Salesforce or HubSpot, whatever CRM is your friend, and just write it down and figure out who is good at which piece too. You may think about the rock star sales player, but each salesperson will have a really good skill in a different section. Figure out what they're doing to nail that section so then you can really start to scale it up. And the last thing that I'd plug to, that's the 5 core within the sales process. Also think about your marketing and customer success friends too. Marketing is really, really big in figuring out how we can kickstart those conversations, and the feedback you give them is a really rewarding circle. And then on the flip side, you don't want to sign a contract and then customer success can't deliver. Figure out what those stories are that Amal was talking about too, and make sure that you can deliver what you promised.
Awesome. Derek?
Yeah, so I'm a big framework guy. So if you have no sales experience, you have to start, like Nirvana was saying, with talking to 100 people. If it ain't 100, it ain't serious, right? 100 people, and you have to have a hook, a story, and an offer, okay? Obviously, those are going to change as you speak with people, But those are the three things you're adjusting. The hook, why should I care, right? I teach women, immigrant, minority entrepreneurs how to implement a sales process, right? We've, we've helped them do $4.1 million in revenue. That's the hook. Oh, okay, I'm interested. Now, I need a story. So the story, you can be specific and talk about a person that you've actually helped. And I think the way you have to look at a story is not just rambling, but thinking about a transformation that your business is facilitating. Your customer starts at point A with a problem, and then your product or service helps them, is the bridge that gets them to point B. So the story should have a beginning, middle, and end. That beginning is my customer had this problem. And the middle is here's how we actually help them with that problem with our product or service. And then what are the results? So that's the story piece. And then your offer, this is a thing I think a lot of people just don't think about. There is a trade of value. People give you money and then you have to promise them something. And that something has to come in some kind of package so people can say, what am I actually buying, right? So it's not good enough just to have the story. You need to be able to say, okay, and this is how I package this service or product so that it can help you solve that problem. And I would like X amount of dollars for it. And here is how I would like for you to pay, whether it's in installments or whatever case may be. That is a proper offer. And it takes a while to figure out what people are willing to pay, whether you're underpricing or overpricing. And that's why I think it's so important, one, to just have that framework, hook, story, offer, but also to talk to 100 people. Because at that point, usually around 50 or so, you're starting to get, like a sense of what people say, what resonates with customers. But usually the first 20, 30 people, they're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. You're using too many buzzwords, or can you explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I'm a big fan of 100, because you might accidentally make a whole bunch of sales just by talking to 100 people.
Awesome. That was super helpful. And kind of keeping on that same topic about founders and thinking about sales, what do you think the biggest blind spots are for founders when they're starting to think about sales, starting to lay out these processes? Amal, we can start with you if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. So I'll give a sub $10 million answer, and I'll give a north of $10 million answer. So first thing as a founder, SaaS and services, because that's where I live. So let me just add context there. How am I going to survive the first 4 years of employment at this organization, right? So assuming that we can keep the operation up and running, I think the most important thing that I've seen is, and again, this is just my background here, we have our technical side and we have our strategic side. You have your brains of the business and the operation. They understand the product. They understand the market sizing. They understand the customer pain points, the use cases, the alignment. They left some large organization that was well-renowned usually, and it's usually the argument was either over quality, capacity, or business model. And so when they're starting, I think the most important things are, and to Derek's point, this is the customer piece as well, know exactly who you aren't and know who you are, right? Saying this with the least amount of ego possible, I'm pretty good at telling stories, right? And I'm pretty good at connecting the dots between the pain points and the value, right? So here's the promises that are made, here's the promises that are kept. So I think you're looking at an executive team, it's very tempting, especially if you have a consultancy background, because if you work at a big four consultancy, you have been taught that you have to deliver on everything that you sell. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I say I'm going to give you back 50,000 hours to the business, or I'm going to offset the workload of 2,500 FTEs, I had to walk that mile, right? First meeting, scoping, delivery, maintaining SLAs, deviation, promises broken. How do I maintain the relationship without losing value on either side? Because in large business, once the promise is broken, I call the other two people that I have on my short list, right? And so when I'm looking at it from a founder standpoint, Last company that I helped go from under 4 million to 12 million, we had the technical side of the business. He was very personable. We had the strategic side of the business who understood how to monetize solutions, but he wasn't very personable. Like, and he would actually tell me, he's like, all people don't like me. And I'm like, well, maybe it's self-fulfilling. And I walked for a while and I was like, oh wait, now see, no, they don't. So let's have you be on stage and have you present and have the credentials. Bhavyesh will smooth with the people who will actually deliver on the product, and I'll kind of manage the relationship in between, because what we have to realize is that we are not at our best every single day. And sometimes our trusted advisors have to come in and say, hey, Amal, you know what? You're too aggressive today. Or, hey, you know what? You've been going too hard and you've been drilling at this one point. And it's not, to Derek's point, those 100 conversations, you keep reiterating a talk point that doesn't resonate with our audience. It causes more friction, right, than fluidity in the conversation. So I know you're going to see a lot of people on Facebook say this, but after a certain point, triple down on what you're good at and stop trying to be great at everything, because you bring your vices with you to everything that you do. And then when we have challenges, I love this about my son, raising him. My son is STEM side of the brain, right? My wife is an English major, I'm a nerd. And he is awesome at low code, no code, but he struggles with taking a picture, drawing the picture, and then creating a narrative beneath it. So I have to enable him by saying, this is only hard until you stop running from it and you start to face it. So own what you're really, really good at, stop apologizing for it. There are things that you're really good at, there are. And then take some of your Netflix time, no shade at all in this, take a portion of your Netflix time and use that to work on the things that you're not necessarily good at, to the extent to which it maps back to what you're trying to achieve as a business. So, for example, I just watched worst best show on Netflix, Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is not doing anything for me other than helping me tell stories to kids who are from the 90s. But what it also does for me is it doesn't have me staring at that one business problem that I can't solve. It doesn't have me staring at that one customer that I can't crack. So you have to find a way somehow to give yourself balance, but also to be able to commit to yourself and saying, if my business is going to scale and if it is going to grow, I have to hire brilliant, talented people, give them an understanding of our strategy, and not sit here interrogating their tactics. And if I can do that, our business will grow over time, but we have to be willing to grow in public. We can't go into the phone booth and change immediately into our superhero outfit. We have to be willing to grow in public. And part of that, I think the first step as a co-founder or founder of the organization is saying, I am really awesome at technology. I am really awesome at storytelling. I'm not very good at operations. I'm not very good at reporting and analytics, but I know that those matter to the granular health of my business. That's kind of my view.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Nirvana, do you have anything to add to just potential blind spots that founders should be aware of?
Absolutely. So in terms of blind spots that founders should be aware of, I'm just thinking like if you were to just have this really great product, you're ready to bring it to market, you hire a salesperson, you might have this idea about what the salesperson should do and just like say, okay, go out there, be hungry, network, make connections, build relationships, sell the product. And all of that is what's traditionally known as outbound sales. And I would say don't underestimate the power of inbound. And I don't think inbound sales can happen without inbound marketing. And Thunby, I'm sure you appreciate this being from HubSpot, the founders of inbound marketing. But I think that there's a lot that you can do to bring people to your store, if you will. And I think that, you know, if between creating opportunities for your customers to talk to each other, like communities online and networking events, and or driving content around things that your personas care about, like there's a lot of opportunities to just get customers to come to you rather than relying on just one person to build the pipeline of the entire world. So I think that's an area, an opportunity for founders.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of brings me to, well, someone chatted in and said, where do you find the 100? So Derek, like talking about inbound kind of versus outbound, what advice do you have to how do you get those 100 people? And then where do you need to also start focusing on the content piece as well?
HubSpot, I love you, but when you're hustling, you got to pay the bills and you got this little guy right here. It's cool. Make some videos, write an article, but you spend like 3 hours in the week doing that. You work your natural network. I don't care if you call your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your uncle. Start with just getting comfortable with your hook story offer. I like to say that if my niece, I have 3 nieces and a nephew, if my niece can't understand what I'm saying, something's wrong, right? So you start there. More practically, you go on LinkedIn, you find your alma mater, your college that you went to, and find people who are closest to your customer, but happen to go to the same school with you. There's other affinity groups that you can reach out to. So if you were involved with NSBE or sorority or fraternity or any kind of group, reach out to those folks because you have a point of connection. I do it every single day. And it's crazy how people just want to help others, right? But you have to come and say, look, I'm not trying to sell you. I need some help. And I would love to get 15 minutes of your time. Very important, 10 to 15 minutes. Make your pitch 3 minutes long at most. That's where clarity comes in. But 3 minutes long, get the feedback, ask a couple questions, get in, get out, repeat. So those are super practical ways, in addition to writing an article on Medium or making a couple videos and on Twitter and the gram.
I agree with Derek. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. I love just like adding people that are in the industry. And when I do, I usually include a little note just so they're not totally creeped out, being like, hey, this is what I do. I see on your LinkedIn profile, this is what you do. Let's connect if you want to exchange ideas. And literally that's all it takes. And then you can just get a conversation going from there. And even if you're not writing articles, if you're not a writer, that's okay. I try and post something relevant to my industry every single day, because that way I am just like beating the drum. I'm adding hashtags so that way people can engage with it. And this is something called social selling. And it's like we could have a panel all on that. So.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. So my next question is, what should startup leaders think about when making their first sales hire? What is maybe the number one quality you think a sales hire should have? Amal, I'd love to start that off with you, and then we'll go to Christy next.
I was going to say this. I've been hired for that role 5 times now. Right? I'll tell you this. Speed is the most important part of the hire. Okay? So when we talk about job descriptions, don't say SaaS rep with 5 years of experience selling to enterprise accounts. Please get very specific, because it's really hard for us as sales professionals to method act as the customer, because we're not the same. We are fundamentally different. Sales professionals who do well, we live different lifestyles. We just do. And we need to go into our conversations with a measured amount of empathy. So if you have a net new rep going into sales, reps are going to yell at me on LinkedIn for this. They need to spend the lion's share of their time doing business development and increasing their knowledge, period. If you are not a tenured rep in your vertical, you cannot talk from a position of expertise. Again, additional period. You need to spend all of your time attending thought leadership pieces. You need to spend all of your time attending the direct marketing initiatives of your competition so that you are well-versed. So immature or rookie, I don't want to say immature, that's not right, but net new salesperson in an industry, you need to understand something more about your competition other than the fact that they exist and their colors are different than yours. So when you go to a sales hire, especially an executive sales lead, 2008 forward selling, pre-2008, you just needed a bag, a Rolodex, and some friends, and you'd go to local bars in Boston and go to the right proper bars, whether it was Charlestown or downtown Boston. If I had banking and financial clients, I needed to go to Red Sky, right? If I had legal clients, I had to go to the Seaport. If I had blue collar industrial clients, I had to go to different bars. So I had to go to different places, and I had to have a pragmatic approach to, back then, email open rates were higher, the phone still worked, and I could do ground and pound at happy hour on Thursdays and Fridays. It's changed. It's a pandemic. Happy hour is gone, right? It's changed. It's a pandemic. Thanks a lot, HubSpot. The buyer is smarter now, and they engage with us across different channels, and they come into that arena more informed, having a very specific agenda, right? If I go shopping at Gucci, for example, for a pair of loafers, it's different than if I go to Foot Action. My disposition is fundamentally different. So when you talk to your reps, you want them not to build you a 30, 60, 90-day plan that says I'm going to show up in the morning and leave at night. You want them to build a market sizing exercise where it talks about, in my history, I have these relationships. And as a sales professional, say, hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense for us to work together. I don't have a lot of utility people in my background, right? My background is I know every single marketer in the greater Boston area. Objectively, look at my LinkedIn. My background, SaaS, right? My background, Black RPA professionals. My background, higher education, because I've done a lot of work in those spaces. So if the target personas that can cut us the check that we're looking for live in my LinkedIn, live in my cell phone, then I have a very good chance of being successful. So that's one. Two, how invested are they in your business? For example, here's a lazy interviewer doing a sales pitch. Hey, what do you guys do? Tell me about what you do. Who's your best customer? Who's your Derek, don't you laugh at them. But it's true. If I come in and I didn't use any of the Googles, I need to come in with a 10 slide deck, period. And I need to talk about the market, the people that are involved, the technology, and the current processes that need to be leveraged, need to be augmented by technology, just very generally, right? So if I'm trying to service 450,000 marketers in North America, HubSpot might be my target, right? If I need to service 18,000 CFOs at 4 billion plus companies in the United States, Amal's company might be the people that can help you. So I need to understand the attributes, right? I need to understand their behavior. I need to understand their budget. So let's be very clear. Vice presidents can only sign off on so much on a P card before I have to go into the proper RFP process. So don't have pricing, to Derek's point, that is obtuse. Don't go into an organization with a price point that triggers its RFP practice. Sell small, start small, sell a roadmap that's pragmatic with specific measurable milestones that earn the right to ask for additional resources. So now that I can build a business case to talk about value, savings, earnings, right? So for me, for example, one of my passion projects, right, gainful employment, I have to figure out a way to tell large Fortune 500s that we can save them $50 million by leveraging attended and unattended robots in their operations. Big, large, gigantic statement. And then there's a lot of conversations that happen in between that, but you can tell who a good sales fit is based upon not how they pitch you on themselves, right? Like, I don't want to come into the call saying, hey, I'm an analytical mind. I don't want to come into the call saying, hey, I work hard. I want to come into the call and I want to exhibit the characteristics that you're looking for. So I looked up both of the founders on the profile page. I know the job before the job that made you quit the job that you have right now without being a creep, okay? And when I look at the size of your market and I look at what I think the potential revenue size is, for me at my stage of my career, I want to sell products that cost $1 million. At my stage of career, I don't have the velocity, and with 2 children, I don't have the availability to sell $10,000 products, right? I can't, I'm getting old. I can't manage 400 clients. I can manage 40. And ideally, I only really want to manage 10 because if I can get to my target number with 10 clients, 1, the engagement is more meaningful, right? 2, I have only 9 calls to take each week. That's a very nice place to be, right? And then 3, when we are, and I think this is where I've kind of matured professionally. When I first started, I wanted everybody in the world to be my customer, right? Because every conversation was of value. As I've gotten on, I only have 3 days a week to sell. The other 2 weeks are operational. I have 3 weeks for execution, 1 week for measurement, and then, 1 day for measurement, and then 1 day for reflection and getting ready for my next week. That's my sales week. That's it. I don't do 120 dials. When I first got out of college, I did 200 dials a day. It's not sustainable. I'm not recommending it as best practice. Now I do 25 calls a day. And those 25 calls are very specific to a specific person, to Derek's point, with a specific offer and a very short voicemail. My voicemails are less than 30 seconds. And my voicemails are, check your email. I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn, just like Nirvana said, and I'm going to say, I'm going to talk to you as if we're not going to ever speak. And then when you trace those timelines back, if you've done it really, really well, if you look on your HubSpot tool, when I use Signals, he opens the email, he opens the attachment, he views me on LinkedIn, he checks his voicemail. Guess what happens on Monday or Tuesday? That note that we've been waiting for. And when that happens, guess what? The deck should have been built at the beginning of the month because I expect success if I am pragmatic. So sales comes in, I need to understand the market sizing, I need to understand the potential target customer, I need to understand your product lifecycle and how it's going to evolve. You owe me that as a part of our discourse because that's behind the firewall. And then I want to have a very, very specific talk about how far in the Stone Ages our business development initiatives are. I don't want to spend 18 months debating on whether or not we should have a push-pull platform. Tanvi, I'm just going to pitch your product all day. I don't want to have a discussion about whether or not we need to do direct marketing. What I want to say is, what is the SLA from our direct marketing initiatives, and how far away is that from the SQL sweet spot that I need to give you guys this $4 million loan that you gave me back? And then how can I exceed it? So when you're looking at sales, they better understand your customer. They better understand your why. Like, why are you in market? And if you're in market to solve a problem that a customer's already solved, then we shouldn't be talking about business. if that makes sense. So when you talk to your salespeople, they need to have a strategy that they can articulate to you on the back of a napkin, right? On their cell phone. And if you want to talk to them, don't talk to their former bosses, talk to their customers. If I've closed deals, call my customers and see what they have to say. You know, Amal talks too much, it's very opinionated, but they'll take the call, right? And so I think all of that is what you're looking for in the attributes of a successful salesperson. That's a tenured one. If they're fresh out of college, you have to be a mentor, teacher, and advisor, and you have to make sure that you're buttoned up from an enablement standpoint. And in the current normal, you owe your sales rep 40 sales calls before you make a decision about their performance, my opinion.
Awesome, thank you. And Christy, what about you?
Yeah, for the very first sales hire, I would go for a more senior account executive. Agree, you don't need a certain number of years, but you want somebody who can close a deal. Once you have somebody closing deals and they're too busy closing deals and prospecting, that's when you bring in the BDR, business development rep, sales development rep. And through the whole time, document the whole hiring process, because you'll be doing a whole lot of it if you're growing. But I think about, for the qualities, I made up this acronym, I'm really proud of it, called SHORE. So S would be for storyteller. Like Amal said, that is absolutely key. And as a founder, you own the story. Now you want this person to own your story and make it their own and make it very specific to each potential customer. H for habits. It is so important that they know what to do every day, plan their day to do it, because a startup is very ambiguous and you need this person to be a self-starter, have the right habits. I'm a huge fan of, what does your calendar look like, as an interview question? And that is super telling to see how they organize their time. O for outbound experience. We kind of got into that earlier. Inbound is great when you have that marketing machine. When you don't, and even at the beginning, outbound, you want somebody who can go cold and really create opportunity where there is none. R for respect. I'm thinking that Warren Buffett quote about integrity. It is so important that this person is respectful in their language, how they're working with you, how they're working with your customers. And also because this person's probably the mold for all of your other sales hires. And when you as the boss are not there for your future sales hires, this is who that person's going to with their questions. You want a role model, someone who's respectful. And then E for expertise. Ideally, they know your industry. So like Amal said, they know the customers that they're going to be talking to, the buyer personas. They've sold similar ACV, average contract value deals. So they know how to get it done, and then they can figure out how to get it done for your specific situation.
Awesome, awesome, thanks. And then what is the biggest lesson you've learned when building out a sales team or sales process? We're gonna start with Nirvana, go to Derek, and then if Christy and Amal have anything to add, we can also hear from y'all as well.
This is a great question. I would say the biggest lesson would be to be organized, because when you're balancing 100 conversations, like Derek said, and you've got that many contacts, maybe several per company, it can be really easy to lose track of all of that and not do your due diligence in terms of follow-up. And you really do want to stay in front of customers as much as possible, and make sure that you are front of mind, because time really is the killer of all deals. So that would be my one piece of advice.
Derek, you're on mute. Yep.
No, it's all good. I hold the baby with one hand, I unmute with the other. So very much along the same lines as Nirvana, you know, this is a plug for HubSpot CRM. It's free, right? So one, it's very important to keep track of all these conversations, but you need a system to do that. It's not just getting the CRM. If you say, all right, what's my hook, what's my story, what's my offer, and what was the reaction? You need to take notes of every conversation. If it's something you're comfortable with, you can ask the other party if you can record the conversation, just so that if you're horrible at taking notes you know, at the same time as you're having a conversation, you say, I can listen back to it. In some cases, what I do is I send the person the audio of the conversation so that there's no issues around, hey, did you misconstrue anything I said? Because I'm terrible at taking notes. But even if you're, you know, if you don't have that option, you want to have a very simple framework and a way to score or grade leads, right? so that you can say, all right, I spoke with all these people, here are my notes, and I've scored them on a 1 to 5 scale, so that you can really understand, you can have some actual data that helps you make decisions about who do you need to follow up with, who are priorities, because it's easy to get disorganized and discouraged, especially early on if you're disorganized. So that's why I'm a big fan of sort of 3 major pieces that you're looking for, and then scoring folks, and then saying, all right, these are my top 10 people, and making sure that you follow up with them like a beast. Like you need to 6, 7, 8, 9 times until you get a no, politely, and politely persistent is how I call it. But I think that is the key piece when you're beginning. And the last thing I would say is 80-20 rule is something I love in terms of talking versus listening. So you should ask a question and shut up and just listen. Ask a question, shut up. Ask a clarifying question so that you can get information you don't already know. It's not your job to say, oh, my product's the best, and here's why you don't see what I see. That's a waste of your time, because you're actually trying to discover. It's a discovery process. You're trying to discover some new things and new information, and only the other party can give it to you.
Yep.
Awesome. I was going to say one quick piece on the tail end there. Proper discovery results in a statement of works. I mean, it's just that bare bones. And then from a sales execution standpoint, your sales team does 3 things each week. They brief you on what they're going to do, they execute, and then they debrief you at the end of the week. We should race towards measurement, not away from it. That's just how I look at it. I think that the further we are between our debrief points, now they shouldn't be daily because this is not the 90s, but they should be weekly. And an engaged sales force is going to say, hey, those 100 conversations that I had, which is a lot in a week. I mean, last 2 years, I did 397 sales pitches. And my lowest close rate by product area was 19%. My highest was 42%. That was me, right? But when you talk about a pragmatic approach to your execution each week, you don't have those uncomfortable pipeline calls because you know exactly how many touches it takes, to Derek's point, right? Nirvana, you know how many sales outreaches you've had on LinkedIn, and some were good, some weren't bad. So that's going to inform my next paid social campaign. Christy, you're already pragmatic because you have all the acronyms. So I know that you understand pragmatism. I'm just saying sales is literally, I'm going to do this week. Don't stop doing 100 calls a week because you can't manage the flow. Do 25 outreaches because at the end of the week, right, you have a fraction that engages with you. If you do more than that, you can't manage it in a responsible manner. So you get the spam mail, you get the missed text, you get the missed voicemail. Know who your key targets are from that outreach piece, focus on them, and don't just show up with nothing. Have a deck. I don't want to waste the time here, but have a deck on your personas that were responsive to the traditional outreach mechanisms. And at the end of the quarter, instead of telling marketing they're bad at their job, come back saying we need to try alternative mechanisms to get in front of this audience because these channels have been the least effective. That's mature salesmanship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to say something really cheesy. Sales is art and a science, especially if you measure it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Christy, anything to add on the tail end of that?
Yes, loving measurement. One of my mentors always says the chart on the wall goes up. So also measure the right thing, because whatever you measure is going to move in the right direction. And you may say you are measuring calls hoping for conversations. Just measure conversations instead. That's what will go up if you do. And one other quick point is you're going to feel pressure to move really fast. Your goals are going to go up. If you have funding, that is especially so, but really try to move deliberately. There's always that pressure to hire more people to generate more revenue, but don't hire people to fix problems. If the problem exists and that's why you're going slow, people won't help. Fix the problems, then hire the people.
Awesome. Super helpful. So I do want to give everyone we're probably going to pick only a couple of these, but I want to give the audience a chance to just chat a specific sales problem that they're having right now, and we can turn it over to the team to maybe give you some advice, give you some solutions to think of as well. And while people are writing in their thing, if everyone can kind of do a rapid fire round, share a resource that it can be podcast, books that you can share with the audience that you have found helpful in terms of building a sales team, maybe just getting better at sales, hiring, whatever that is. Nirvana, let's start with you. Let's go Nirvana, Amal, Christy, and Derek.
Okay, Cool. So I'm excited to recommend this book that our Sierra Robin made us read. It's called Selling Above the Line and Below the Line by William Skip Miller. And you know he's a sales dude because they call him Skip. And basically, this book helps me understand how companies buy and learn about technical buyers, but also C-suite. And like, you might be a C-suite since 50% of you are CEOs, but it's just good context into what a chief anything is thinking about. And those are usually the people who hold the credit cards and whatnot. So I think that it would be really helpful for informing how you target your personas, and also like bringing your interested prospects across the line as customers, just so you can have some of those stories that Amal was talking about earlier.
Nice answer. So I'm going to say record everything. And if you don't have an intelligent chatbot that can transcribe those conversations, please use the application Fiverr to outsource it for a reasonable amount. Oral Legacy sinks ships. Oral Legacy, it lengthens the time from your new hires start date to their competency. It lengthens the time from discovery to customer. It lengthens the time from scoping to onboarding. And so what I really have found a lot of times is that men were guilty of this the most. I'm not saying this for the praise, but if you have 5 guys in a meeting, there's no notes taken. So it's like the meeting didn't even happen. So we need to record these meetings. We need to transcribe these meetings, and we need to have a digital and a tangible, again, I'm using those incorrectly there, but I need to have 2 versions of the truth. I need to have my recollection, but I also need to have the documentation. And that sales documentation is going to inform your product lifecycle management, your human capital management, your lead gen and demand generation, and your marketing hires. By the time you need to hire a product marketer, you've taken 18 months too long to hire that product marketer, right? By the time you pay for the CMO, you are taking almost a calendar year too long to hire the CMO. And so a lot of the challenges, I can't remember who said it, don't hire the people. You have common business problems. You don't have uncommon business problems. But the reason why you don't understand how to prioritize them is because you don't have that allegory, that legacy that informs you, that says, look at how much time we've spent talking about this thing. We haven't actually done said thing. So please record everything. And if you can afford Fiverr or a transcription bot, please use that, because that's more information than you've had historically. And if you have that, an eager person who joins your organization as a part of their ramp up and their onboarding in those first 30 days, they're going to read all of the bedtime stories that they've missed. And guess how they're going to sound 30 days later? Like, they may have not been there for those customer calls, but they're not going to ask you questions like, who's our best customer? They're going to know.
Awesome, thank you. Christy, any resource that you would recommend for our audience to check out?
Yeah, one book, The Challenger Sale, definitely. And I think that tells you a lot about what a salesperson can do, and kind of breaks some assumptions about what you think a salesperson would be, especially when you're hiring. It has some great tips at the end too about how to hire and screen for obviously it's the challenger profile that wins. That's why they named the book that way. So to screen for the challenger profile and then onboard them accordingly and continue to train them. And then in general, LinkedIn came up a lot. And I'm a huge, huge fan of LinkedIn, because that's just a daily immersion into so many bits and pieces. We're all coming here today talking about our own experiences, what we've been through, the companies that we're at, and LinkedIn just gives you so much more exposure to all of that. And salespeople are not shy. They share their stories. So you're going to find so many different tidbits about problems they're facing, solutions they've seen, things that you've never considered, and just affirmation that some of your best practices truly are best practices. And like a few names I'd throw out are Josh Braun, Beck Holland, Tito Bort, and then follow everyone that they follow. There's a giant community on LinkedIn that'll be a huge resource for you every day.
Awesome, thanks. And Derek, any resource that you'd recommend?
A lot of resources out there. I'm huge on books. I'm huge on audio books. I'm a fan. So I have my Audible subscription, get a book every month. And I just say that's an investment in me. So I read, I listen to the 12 books, but 3 of them I will listen to at least 5 times, right? Because you really want to seep in. So there's 3 that I recommend, because you can run, you can do errands, etc., drive. Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. It's a classic. What I love about this book is that it tells a story. So it's not like all like numbers or just boring technical details. So it really draws you in It helps you understand the psychology of sales, right? You have to, for example, talk to the crocodile brain. It's not about saying fancy words and confusing people. It's about, talking to your niece and saying, all right, this person wants to hang up the phone, right? How can I keep their attention? And how can I speak to that part of their brain that it processes information very quickly, but also makes things very simple? So Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff is one. The other book that is key is The 4 Disciplines of Execution. So that book right there, listen to that like 10 times. So that really helps you understand and break down the process of having a system of measurement. Yeah, saying that measurement is cool and saying, oh, I'm gonna track my outreach, I'm gonna track my calls, etc. You have to be held accountable by another person. So even if you're a CEO, you have to find somebody else, preferably who doesn't work with you, and say, this is what I've done. Give me some advice, and just have that rhythm and cadence, because that will help you. It's not just the measurement, but it's the rhythm and cadence of accountability that will help you get better. So I'll sort of end with those 2 books, but I'm a big fan of audiobooks. Listen to them on repeat so that you can catch new things every time that you hear them.
Awesome. Thank you. We do need to wrap up. So I wanted to get to this case. Wildline was able to chat in. So my name is Wildline. I'm the founder of Fusion Dolls. We make beautiful multicultural dolls to spread diversity, awareness, and encourage our kids to love themselves inside and out. Lovely. Before COVID, we used to sell in person. Now we are selling online. I would like some advice on how to keep my sales consistent. Obviously, given the pandemic, any kind of advice would be super helpful. Derek, I want to start with you just because this kind of was your idea. So if you want to start off, and then everyone, let's try to keep it to about 30 seconds if we can. I know that's super hard, but.
So I'm going to venture to say that you're French or Haitian and say your name is Widlin.
Yeah, you got it, Derek.
Yep. So all love, because nobody loves the pronunciation of the name more than the person. There you go. Yes. So Widlin is pretty simple. Who likes dolls? Find people who like dolls, right? YouTube. Somebody with 100 subscribers. Reach out to that person, right? Reach out to 100 people that look like them and say, can I send you a doll? You could send it back to me, etc. And you do that with like 10 people and see if there's any traction, because those links live forever. Okay, so you rinse and repeat that process. Bloggers, there's a lot of people out there that never get approached. Reach out to those folks first, not the person with 1 million followers. Get somebody with 100 followers. And if you can't get them to say yes, you got to work on your hook, you got to work on your story, and you got to work on your offer.
Awesome. Thanks. Nirvana. Yeah, let's see it.
I want to jump in. I love dolls. That's so exciting. And I love the multicultural doll idea too. So yeah, I guess it really depends on who your audience is. If you're like going for like adults who like collector's items, or like children for play toys, like there's different things that you can do. But I agree with Derek. You want to build some hype, right? And so maybe some of that is the brand sponsorship that Derek was talking about. Maybe it's getting in touch with people who are bloggers and who create content on Instagram, and like people who kind of are behind your same mission, and just like get people to your website. And Christy and I come from the e-commerce world. Next, you need an e-commerce marketer. You don't need a salesperson. Like the internet has bots that will help you sell these things like with a lot of automation. So I think that e-commerce marketing is probably the way to go for a B2C product like that, rather than building out a sales team. But I don't know if anybody disagrees with me there. That was kind of a big thing to say.
Totally on the same page from from our experience. And I think you got some advice in the chat about Facebook, which I'd say is a paid version to get customers. And then also you're hearing about organic. So build up the hype wherever you can, pay for it where you need to too. And then the more people who have eyes on your business, the better chance you get of converting them.
And Amal, want to take it home?
Yeah, sure. So I dropped the Facebook plus the paid micro campaigns. Please post your dolls or a handful of them or a collection of them on the Facebook store just to see what kind of traction you get. And I know you followed me on Instagram, no, excuse me, on Twitter. So I'm going to send you one of the foremost e-commerce marketers on LinkedIn. He talks about marketing all day long. And I'll send you his link. And most of the things that you're wrestling with right now, he has a subscription. It's only $10 a month. And I think it would help you immensely. And he talks about best practice for offer optimization by channel and how to measure campaigns. Obviously, the goal is revenue and results, but he's one of the best marketers you could use right now for where you are at the stage of your business. So I'll send that to you as a direct message on Twitter. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Christine. I know we're running a little bit late, but this was awesome. I had a great time talking to all of y'all, and hopefully the audience was able to get a lot of knowledge out of the session.